Penjerrick Garden can be found near Falmouth in Cornwall. Situated on the same road that leads to Trebah, you could easily miss this garden. But if you'd like to have an adventure through a lost jungle, then this garden really is for you. It's the land that time forgot, a secret subtropical jungle. Penjerrick Garden was created around 200 years ago by Robert Weir Fox and his children Anna Marie, Barclay and Caroline. His brother Charles was responsible for the garden at Trebah, which is just down the road, and will be featuring in my video in the next episode. Robert himself was credited with naturalising over 300 species of plants, and there are certainly many interesting varieties to see here. And I'll talk you through some of them later on in this video. But first, I just wanted to give you a little idea of what to expect when you arrive here. At the time of my visit and making this video, the garden's only open 3 days a week from 1:30 till 4:30 in the afternoon. So make sure you check that it's open before you head out there. The house is private and you won't find staff or refreshments. However, there is a hotel opposite the entrance called Penjerrick Manor. And here you can purchase drinks from the bar and sit outside looking at the beautiful coastal views. And this was a godsend on my trip because it was a very hot day. The best time to visit the garden is in spring when you can see the rhododendrons and camellias and azaleas in flower. Rachel Morin is the current owner of Penjerrick, who's kindly sent me these photos. But I'd also like to thank those on Instagram who allowed me to use their photographs so that I could show you what the gardens look like at this time of year, as it's definitely very different in October. When you first arrive here, you'll find a small gate that will take you into the garden. Beside it, there are maps, so please don't forget to take one of these with you. Or at the very least, like I did, take a photograph of it, because it is very easy to get lost in this garden. The garden is divided into two, the upper garden and the valley garden. And on the back of the map, you can find a helpful description of the route. I do warn you though that even with the map you can still get a little bit lost in this garden, because one minute you'll find yourself walking down a garden path and the next minute you turn around and you suddenly realise that that path has disappeared into absolutely nothing. There's no mobile phone signal throughout most of the garden, and you may be the only person visiting the garden at the time, which may make you feel very alone if you do start to feel lost. When I visited after I first started to get lost, I did bump into another couple and we kind of got lost together. So once I found my way, I strapped on my GoPro and I decided to record my journey as I walked from the upper garden to the valley garden. So if you are worried about getting a bit lost, you may find it helpful to make sure you've got this video downloaded on your phone. And while there is plenty to explore in the upper gardens, this is the fastest route through to get down to the valley gardens if you're getting a bit stuck. Here you will find an honesty box where you can leave your entrance fee to the garden, which is £3 at the time of my visit. And then you'll make your way through to the main house, which is not open to the public. Dogs are welcome in this garden as long as they are kept on a lead. And once you get to the bottom of this lawn, there are actually two routes that you can take to get to the valley garden. As you will need to cross a road to get there, you can either cross the road via the gate, which is the route that I took on this visit, or turn right and it will take you to the bridge. Of course, if you're visiting this garden for a bit of adventure, you may not want to follow the routes planned and just go and explore yourself, which is absolutely fine. And to be honest, I think that's one of the main attractions of this garden in comparison to a more formal garden like Trebah. So this is the gate that leads to the road, and you can see that bridge that I was talking about is just further up the road here. So now we've arrived in the valley garden and there will be plenty more for you to explore in this area. Just one word of warning though, that this is probably not the best garden to visit if you have any difficulties with mobility. You will find fallen trees that you may need to climb over. It can get very muddy and quite slippery in that mud. And although there are benches that you can sit on around the garden, I do advise that you sit with caution because you may find some of them are a bit loose. And I'm just going to point out again that there isn't very much phone signal in this garden. So if you were to slip and have a fall, it would probably be helpful if you've got somebody with you who can then go and get help. But for all my safety tips and advice, this is an absolutely stunning garden, and if you can get a chance to go and see it, I definitely recommend it. So now I'm going to talk you through just a few of the wonderful plants that you can see in this garden. Fuchsia magellanica is one of the hardiest varieties of fuchsia. It will survive down to -15 or maybe even -20 degrees C, and it will continue to flower throughout summer and autumn until the first frosts. There is an abundance of tree ferns growing in this garden, and many of them were introduced at the beginning of the garden design, so are up to about 200 years old. Dicksonia antarctica is a very common sight in Cornwall due to the fact that they were brought over from Australia and used as ballast to hold cargo in place. In milder areas of the UK, these won't need any protection over winter. However, in cooler areas, it's best to put some fleece in the crown. Philostachys nigra is also known as the black bamboo due to the black colour of the canes. It can grow up to 25 metres tall and is a clumping variety of bamboo, so is less invasive than other forms, but care should still be taken. I think this is Philostachys reticulata, which is a running form of bamboo and therefore much more invasive. Blechnum caudatum, or the Chilean hard fern, is native to Chile and Argentina. This is an evergreen fern that will grow up to 1.2 metres tall. It prefers damp soil and partial shade. Gunnera tinctoria is very similar to the larger Gunnera manicata, however it can normally be identified by the fact that its stem has a slight pink hue. Gunnera manicata, however, is much larger and can grow up to 3 metres tall with a 4 metre spread. It's a very thirsty plant and therefore will thrive best next to ponds or in really boggy soil. You'll find lots of wonderful examples of Gunnera manicata in the Valley Garden, as there are 4 ponds in this area of the garden. In winter, the leaves will die back to ground level, and particularly in the cooler areas of the country, they will need some protection over the crown to protect it from the harsher frosts. Most people will do this by covering up the crown with the leaves that they've removed from the plant. Although I'm referring to this Gunnera as manicata in this video, all Gunnera manicatas sold in the UK are actually a cross between manicata and tinctoria, which is known as Gunnera cryptica. Lysochiton americanus is also known as the western skunk cabbage. It's been grown in Britain as an ornamental curiosity since the early 20th century. Unfortunately, this plant is now considered an invasive species, and its large leaves do outcompete other plants. Araucaria araucana is also known as the monkey puzzle tree. This is a slow-growing tree that takes 10 years to reach 6 by 3 metres. It prefers to grow in full sun or part shade. There are many rhododendrons here in Penjerrick for you to see, including the Penjerrick cream and this one. Rhododendron lodery King George grows up to 4 metres tall and has beautiful white flowers in spring. Podocarpus solignus is also known as the willow-leafed podocarp. It's actually an evergreen conifer, but as its name suggests, it actually has very willow-like leaves growing up to 15 centimetres long. It prefers a sheltered position in full sun and is hardy throughout most of the UK. If you're enjoying this content, then please do make sure you're subscribed to my channel. This is still a new channel, so every subscriber really does make a difference. You can also turn on notifications to make sure you don't miss any of my new videos. And please let me know what you think in the comments, because they really do help my channel to grow. You can also follow me on social media for links to my latest videos and my photo of the day, in which I usually share photos of flowers from my garden, along with their names if known. You can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, or you can join my Facebook group to ask questions or share photos. And you can find all of my YouTube videos on the Freya's Tropical Garden website, which I will also be expanding to provide advice pages as well as items for sale. Links to these pages are included in my description.